and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Lalit.
Thank you very much. It all started in 2013, January 1st. I have two daughters. They gave me a gift. One gave us a device called Apple TV. It's a tiny device that would make a dumb TV into an intelligent TV. And the second daughter gave us a subscription to Netflix. So till that time, we used to get 2 DVDs every week, and then you return them. Another 2 Indian movies would come, and that's what we used to do. So it became online. They came to our house and set it up because I'm not very technically savvy. And we said, okay, let's watch some streaming video. So somebody had mentioned that there's a documentary called Happy. If you haven't seen, I strongly recommend that you watch it. It talks about what brings people happiness, the people of the world who are the happiest people, and we now know about it. There is a survey that started about 2 decades ago, measuring the happiness level of people in different countries, and Scandinavian countries rank in the top 4. Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and believe it or not, Iceland. They have been sharing the top spot for the last 2 decades. So we watched the movie and we liked it. It was nice. Most of us don't go watch documentaries when we go out. We watch feature films. In fact, I didn't even know where to go look for documentaries. They mostly run in some artsy picture hall in San Francisco or maybe Palo Alto, and that's about it. So when the movie ended, in those days when a movie finished, a bar would come at the bottom, and it will show that if you like this movie, you may like one of these also. And there was a movie which said Forks Over Knives, a documentary. So I and my wife said, okay, let's watch that. That's pretty kind of unusual, catchy name. I don't know what they mean, Forks Over Knives. And we watched that documentary, and that changed our life. It resonated perfectly. We had been trying to figure out how to improve maybe our health and things like that. When we grow old, lifestyle diseases catch up with us. From the age of 16 to 40, 45, you are perfectly healthy. Most people are. Okay, you never go see a doctor. And then when I used to go see a doctor, maybe for some condition, they would give me a medication for 3-4 days, and you are fine. And there's a form that you have to fill up when you go to doctor's office. They'll say, what medications are you taking? And I used to think it's a pretty silly question. Yeah, I took something. Which ones do you want to mention? I've taken medications maybe 7-8 times in my life, but for 3 days, 5 days, and that's it. And being an engineer myself, I'm from IIT Kanpur, and I went to study industrial engineering, where they teach you how to design forms. And believe it or not, there's a course, designing forms. And I said, this form is poorly designed. And then when I turned 48, I went to see a doctor, and he said, you have hypertension, you have high blood pressure. I said, oh, okay, so what should I do? So he said, what am I doing wrong? He said, no, here's a medication, and you'll be fine. So I said, how long should I take it? He said, he smiled at me. He said, what do you mean, how long? You have to take it the rest of your life. So that age 48 kind of dawned on me that those forms were not wrong. I was wrong. These forms were asking what chronic medication you are taking. So, 100 years ago, our problem was not lifestyle diseases. Our problem was infectious diseases, cholera, typhoid, smallpox. And then they came up with antibiotics. So you took antibiotics and you for 5 days, and your disease gets cured. They came up with vaccination. You took vaccine, and you were set for smallpox for the rest of your life, or for polio or other things. But after Second World War, around 1950s, when the soldiers came back and and the governments of the world, industrialized economies focused on helping people improve their lives, they made food quite inexpensive, and they made life easy by giving you machineries, a washing machine. A lot of automobiles became very inexpensive. Till that time, only rich and affluent people could afford automobiles. Now everybody could afford. So we got accustomed to this sedentary lifestyle. That's the one change that happened. Second, the food became easily available, and the food industry wanted to make more profit. So they started playing around with the food. They wanted to have longer shelf life. So to have longer shelf life, you have to take out the fiber, because fiber rots very quickly. So if you're making bread, if it has all the fiber, it may last only 4 days. If you take all the fiber out, the bread may last 30 days. So there were a lot of things started happening. The food industry started making things to their food, packaged food. People started working less in terms of with automobile, there were less walking, with washing machine, there was less time spent washing your clothes. The vacuum cleaner, you didn't have to do jhadu pocha, all of a sudden it's all taken care of. So these factors kind of affected our health. Now we were working less, we were less active. A, B, the food industry wants you to eat more. So they want to make the food so tasty that you want to eat more and more. So they hired PhDs who can circumvent your satiation mechanism. Normally, if you eat, if you make potato chips at home, you eat maybe 10, 15, 20, and then you get satiated. I can't have any more, give me something sweet or cold to drink. But if you eat Pringle, the Pringle chips, the potato chips, okay, you eat 1, 2, 3, you can keep eating, you don't feel satiated. Because some PhDs in psychology have designed it in such a way to overcome, to bypass your satiation mechanism. So food industry wanted you to eat more, so they hired PhDs in psychology to design food that you would eat more and more. And that is what has been going on since about 1950s or so. And then as that baby boomer generation, it became 1960s and 70s, they started now falling ill. The blood pressure or hypertension or blood sugar or cholesterol. Cholesterol, in fact, is a disease they created. And I have a whole lecture dedicated to that subject. But the point is, we started falling ill. And we started falling ill in the first 5 decades, from 1923 till 1970s, we had already developed a psyche. Well, when you're ill, go to doctor and ask for a pill. And you'll be fine. But this time it didn't work. So because it didn't work, the doctor said, well, you have to take it. It's an incurable disease. So first of all, they washed their hands off because they said it's an incurable disease. And they put the blame on you. You're not working out. You're overeating. So it's your problem. But I can help you maintain it. It's like having your roof is leaking. Let's say this roof is leaking here and you hire a contractor. The contractor comes and says, it's an incurable problem, but I can take care of it so that it doesn't drop on your dining table. He goes up to the attic. Most American homes have attic. On the attic, he puts a heavy sponge. And he says, now when the water will come, the sponge will absorb it, but it will not trickle down on your dining table or on your sofa or anything. Now, fine, it works for a year, 2 or 3, and then the sponge becomes less effective, and the water is coming. He says, well, now you need to take a second pill. It's like a second pill. So he goes in and he doubles up the sponge and puts a heater, automatic heater. So when the sponge gets wet, the heater turns on and a fan turns on and dries the sponge. Okay? And that is what has been going on. They do patch up. So first of all, they wash your hands saying it's an incurable disease. Second, they give you pills to say, I can help you maintain it. That's what you see here. Here, if you come home to your kitchen after, let's say, 1 week vacation, and if your drain pipe was clogged with grease and ghee and other foods, animal fat becomes solid at room temperature, So it becomes solidified, and if there was even a few drops come in, they will flood up your sink and water will spill over. Now when you reach home, if you're going to rush to the closet and get a mop and start mopping it, without turning off the faucet, first turn off the faucet and then think about other things. But that's not what the doctors do. They're not trained. It's not a problem. Their intentions are very good. But the doctors in medical colleges are not trained nutritionists. They don't know. There's not a single course in nutrition where they are taught what food does. They have no idea. We call them medicine. In fact, when you talk about your son or daughter, you say, oh, she's studying medicine. You never say she's studying good health. She's studying medicine because that's what they teach her. For 5 years, they teach her medicine. They teach her, okay, if this is a problem, if BP goes up, this is the first medicine. If it doesn't help, this is the second medicine. There's a friend of mine here, Raj Shah. He was taking 5 medications just for blood pressure. Okay, so I'm just giving an introduction. Now I had requested that everybody who's coming here, and there are 2 groups here. There's some people are here who are part of my health group, and then there are others who are part of a seniors group here, that they watch this documentary, Forks Over Knives. And if you, how many have seen it? Okay, so there are still few who haven't seen it.
What is the documentary? Forks over knives or what?
Forks over knives. The point is, instead of using a knife to cut your rib cage and go for an open heart bypass surgery, if you use your fork properly, you will never need the knife. If you choose your food properly. So choose a fork rather than a knife. That's the purpose of the documentaries. So I changed my lifestyle, and within a year, I was off within 18 months, I was off 50 pounds. Okay, my weight dropped from 213 pounds. I had crossed a BMI limit which takes you from overweight to obesity. So I had crossed that. And I came back and I crossed all the 25 to 30 range, we call it overweight. Now my body mass index is 23. I weigh the same as what I weighed when I graduated from IIT Kanpur at the age of 21. So I spent the next 4 or 5 years learning about it. I wanted to get rid of my medications, and I was retired. Fortunately, I had sold my businesses, companies, and then we had a IIT Kanpur alumni meet, 45th year. We created a WhatsApp group to interact, a lot of social chat. I joined that group, and most of the interaction was not very meaningful for me, doing Trump bashing or doing Rahul Gandhi bashing or Modi bashing kind of things. But some questions came up, I answered on the health related questions, and then the idea crossed that, why don't you create a group? And I said, yeah, it's not a bad idea, and I created a health group for IIT Kanpur 71 batch alumni. Jawahar, who made the introduction, is my batchmate, and also Shashikant Agrawal is here, there he's sitting, and he's also my batchmate. So Shashikant and Jawahar, 2 of them are here. And I started writing about it. Now, when you are a peer, you say, what does he know about it? I mean, you don't want to follow them, Ghar ki murgi dal barabar, we have that saying. So, but some people started following, and then they started writing that I'm off my hypertension medication, I'm off my diabetes medication. And then the others got interested. So one example I give you is there's a fellow, Ashok Lal Chandani in Lucknow. He has a company, he has employees. So he had an employee, a Muslim employee, and he just forwarded my post to him. He was suffering from very severe diabetes. And after 1 month, he came and he said, sir, thank you so much. आपने तो मेरी जान बचा ली. मैंने कहा, मैंने क्या किया? सर, आप मुझे पोस्ट भेज रहे थे, मैंने फॉलो करना शुरू कर दिया और मेरी डायबिटीज ठीक हो गई है. Now Ashok said to him, sir, my goodness, I am suffering from diabetes. I have never done anything, but you have cured it. Okay. Anyway, so this is how it started, and then one thing led to another. People asked other people to join, and I have gone through 85 different groups, WhatsApp, Facebook, Telegram groups. And I take a new group every month. And we have about 2,500 people who join every month. So I have now 19,000, in fact the number is 19,906 as of today, who are actively interacting with me on social media. And thank you. So we will now start the discussion, and this is first slide talks about that you really need to focus on the cause, not handling the symptoms and not worrying about the symptoms. Let's go to slide 2. Next slide. Yeah, this is an interesting one that, before you heal someone, ask him if he's willing to give up things that made him sick. So it's the same thing. And if you don't want to give them up, then you can't be healed. Okay. We'll go to the next slide. Okay. Next. Okay. So here's some quotations, historical quotations about blood pressure. While there is some truth in saying that the greatest danger to a man with a high blood pressure lies in its discovery, because then some fool is certain to try and reduce it. Okay. This was said by Professor John Hay, and it is very true, very true. The doctor's focus is on giving you medication and trying to reduce the blood pressure. The thing to understand is we have 30 trillion cells in our body. Okay. And when you look at cellular level, each cell has only two purposes in life. A, the cell wants food, wants nutrition. And if he's going to take food, he needs to poop out. Okay? So he needs to get rid of the waste. Now, if your food is not right, then the cell will become unhealthy. Or if the waste is not removed, the cell will become unhealthy. This is only two things. The second thing the cell wants, once he is full, he wants to procreate, he wants to reproduce. Just like human beings. When our tummy is full, we want to have sex. If your tummy is not full, your sex is not on your mind. On your mind is, how can I get food? I need to make food, I need to buy it, cook it, or cross the border into animal territory. Food is most important. So that's the point here, is that your body is trying to compensate for your lifestyle by increasing the blood pressure. It is the right thing to do for you. And if you reduce it, you mess it up. Okay? And this professor said, second, hypertension may be an important compensatory mechanism, as I was just saying, which should not be tampered with, even if we were certain that we could control it. This is by Paul Dudley White, okay, a US cardiologist. The third one is people with mild benign hypertension. For 70 years, we defined hypertension as benign or mild if it was up to 210/10. Okay? Now, when it goes to 135, doctors give you medication. All I'm saying is, Gandhiji had a blood pressure of 200/100. It didn't bother him. It didn't bother him. Your blood pressure often doesn't bother you, but it bothers you only when you've gone and seen the doctor and he has told you, because you all know, oh, my grandfather was hypertension and this and that, and you get scared. There's nothing scary about high blood pressure. This is what your body's compensatory mechanism is. So, okay, let's move to the next slide. Okay. Historical perspective, it was measured in 1733. The term was coined in 1911. And as I said, 210/100 was considered benign. Mahatma Gandhi had 2/100. In 1950, there were no medications. Dr. Kempner treated blood pressure patients by just feeding them white rice. Okay, white rice and fruit juice. That's the diet. And he's very highly regarded. In fact, rice is the best food to eat. And a lot of people have this misunderstanding about starches. So he treated by rice diet. Okay, so what happened is in 1976, they decided to form a committee. And the role of the committee was to come up with guidelines. When should we give medication? Up to what it is okay and we don't need medication? And when we are giving medication, how should we lower it? Because all medications are harmful, okay? All medications have side effects and they cause other problems. So your goal is to be medication free, and that is what I say, that the goal for all of us in this room should be medication free. Okay. So Joint Committee was established in 1976. It had people from medical industry, it had people from pharmaceutical industry, it had people from government, it had some consumer activist group. They were all walks of life, they were there. And they came up with the first guideline. Then second committee came, then third came, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. Eighth was the most recent committee which was formed, and they gave a guideline. I will share those with you in the coming slides. But what happened is when they were tightening the guidelines, doctors were very happy. If you tighten the guideline, let's say instead of 200 over 100 or 210 over 100, somebody said it should be 170 over 90, all of a sudden overnight 10 million people became patients. So all doctors' income goes up, they like it. Then after another 5 years they say, no, we really should have a cutoff of 150 over 85. Again the doctors are happy, the pharmaceutical industry is happy, because the doctors have more patients, the income doubles. Pharmaceutical companies selling more medication, all medication is for life. So every time a new patient is created, their business and their sales go up. Okay. Now, when JNC 8 came, people began to, because before the committee publishes a report, you sense where they're heading. There are many doctors in America who are beginning to realize, in fact I have learned from them, there's a whole movement called whole food plant-based or plant-based whole food movement. And that documentary was the result of that movement. The documentary is nothing but conversation with 6-7 different doctors on the subjects of hypertension, cancer, diabetes, and so on. And the beauty is the solution to all these problems is only one, which is diet and lifestyle. Okay, and the cause is also only one, because the cause is diet. Your diet is not right. Okay, this is what I cover in introductory talk. This is not an introductory talk. That's why I requested everybody to watch the documentary and watch one of my video, which I call 5 Pillars of Health, and that is the introductory video. So some of you may find the subject a little unusual. Let's skip to the next slide. Okay, so the BP changes with age. A newborn child has a BP of 64 over 41. And once he becomes 1 month old, it's 95 over 58. By age 10, it's 102 to 20 and 61 to 80. And by 18 age, 120, 80. Now that number sits in everybody's mind, 120 over 80. But that number really keeps changing as you progress more and more, okay? So in the new guidelines, that number is 140 over 90. That up to 140 over 90 for people under age 60 is safe. You don't need any medication. And for people over age 60, 150 over 90 is normal. You don't need any medication, okay? That's the JNC 8 guidelines that came up with. Next slide. Okay, so this is what happens to your blood vessels when you grow. When you are a 2-year-old child who has just been, or 1.5-year-old child, who has just been taken off mother's milk, his blood vessels are clean, absolutely clean, okay? Now he sits on the table and starts eating what the parents are eating. A boiled egg, a glass of milk, a toast with butter, standard breakfast, okay? And these foods are inflammatory. They cause inflammation. They hurt you. So it's important to understand what inflammation is. Inflammation is your body's response to something that it perceives as a threat. So if you ate egg, the egg nutrients are in your blood, they scratch. They scratch your internal lining. When they scratch the internal lining, any inflammatory food, that's called, will scratch it. When it scratches it, what do? The body brings out an ointment or a malham, we call in Hindi. When your grandchild gets hurt on the knee, a bruise, you take some ointment and you apply it. Okay? That is what body does. It brings out cholesterol and it applies it. So what you see is the first vessel is for somebody who is plant-based. Second is somebody who is vegetarian because he's consuming milk and dahi and cheese and those things which are inflammatory. And the third one is who's a meat eater. So he has a lot of inflammation. So now you see the opening has become tighter. And this is, when the opening is tighter and the blood pressure is, the body needs to move certain amount of blood, about 5 liters, throughout your body every second. So for same amount of blood or liquid to flow, you have to increase the delta pressure. See, either the tube size needs to be bigger, but if tubing effective opening has become smaller, the pressure has to go up. It's as simple as that. Okay? I mean, all the engineers there will understand, and those who did physics in the high school will also understand that for the same amount of fluid to go through a pipe, if the pipe diameter is less, you need higher delta pressure. If diameter is more, you need less delta pressure. So that is what happens. This is what is happening to everybody here. When they had Vietnam War, the soldiers who were dying, they were young. They were 18, 19, 20-year-old boys, and mostly boys and some girls. When they died, they did autopsy. And they looked at their blood vessels, and they found that they already were where the vegetarian thing is saying right now. They were already beyond that. So this thing is called, we call it plaque buildup, but it is, the technical term is atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis, okay, deposits in your internal lining. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, factors affecting BP, effective opening of the blood vessels, friction of the blood vessels, internal lining. The friction will also dictate how much blood pressure is needed to pass the fluid. Amount of blood also affects that, okay? So you have 5 liter blood. If you take a diuretic pill which makes you pee a lot, your blood water level comes down. So instead of 5 liter, now blood is only 4.5 liter. Your blood pressure comes down. Blood viscosity, when you eat a lot of heavy food, oily food for lunch or dinner, that your blood becomes very viscous. There are pictures that show the blood is hardly getting by because very highly viscous. Okay, and then malleability of the blood vessels. See, when you take a balloon, a long balloon that they make shapes out of animals and other things, if you press it on one side, on the other end will expand. So the balloon skin can expand easily. Similarly, when the blood goes out every second, heart pumps it, the skin slightly expands. When it expands, the blood goes through, then it shrinks, expands, shrinks, expands. So if you look at it in a microscope, every blood vessel is going like this. Okay. Now, if your external surface of the blood vessel becomes hard, we call it calcification, then it is not able to expand easily, and you need higher blood pressure to pass the same blood. So this is how the blood pressure gets affected by different factors. Next slide. So there are about 70,000 miles of blood vessels in your body. Okay, if you put them end to end, if you split them open, it's like 6 to 8 tennis courts. So there's that much area through which all the nutrients are being passed every second. Your heart beats 60 times a minute. Every time it is passing fresh supply of nutrient. So the area through which that nutrient is passing through is 6 to 8 tennis courts. Now, as you build these plaques, the available surface goes down, down, down. By the time you are 50, you have almost half of your blood surface of those tennis courts are full of plaque. So when they're full of plaque, the nutrition is not going through. The blood pressure is a symptom, which is telling you that something is not right in your body. Okay, 6 to 8 tennis courts. It's a single cell layer. It's called endothelial cell, and the whole thing together is called endothelium. Of all the 8 tennis courts are called endothelium. And endothelium is the largest organ in your body and one of the most important organ. It's a single cell layer, and the blood is flowing. And now, if these cells' duty is that they release nitric oxide. Okay, we'll come to that. Let me just finish this. So it reduces the effective opening. Endothelium releases nitric oxide, making blood flow smoothly. When you eat salt in diet, it increases the volume of blood because it retains water. Fatty food increases viscosity, calcification, arteries become harder. I discussed that earlier. Next slide.
Cholesterol to the rescue. Can you please explain cholesterol to the rescue? Cholesterol to the rescue.
Yeah, that's what I said. The cholesterol comes and it puts a layer. It's a malham. You're carrying a malham, and those children who keep getting hurt more and more and more, their mothers always carry some ointment. They know my child is going to fall, or my grandchild. So in their purse, you will see maybe 6 or 8 band-aids. Because, he keeps falling every day and he's very naughty. Now, those mothers whose children never fall will maybe carry only 1 band-aid. So similarly, those people who eat inflammatory food, their blood makes more cholesterol. They're not going to need more cholesterol. This guy keeps eating eggs and keeps eating bacon and all these troublesome things. So his cholesterol level is high. Now, what do doctors do here? Number one, they reduce your blood pressure. Body is saying, I need more blood pressure to pass the blood. So what they do, let's move to the next slide, will come. Okay, let's talk about nitric oxide, because this is the one thing you learned today. It is sufficient to cure your problems. You have not read, I do recommend that please watch that movie and watch that 5 Pillars of Health, because that goes into detail of food. Today we don't have time. Looks like I'm running out of time. Nitric oxide is NO. It is not N2O, which is laughing gas, nor is it NO2, which is air pollutant. NO is a messenger that sends signal for arteries to relax and expand. I talked about the balloon example that's going on. And it also does other things like immune cells to kill bacteria, cancer. Next slide. Okay. So these are some other benefits of nitric oxide. Slow reverse arteries plaque, brain cell communication. I will skip this because we're short of time. Next slide. Okay. This is where the sources of nitric oxide are.
You can go on, don't worry about the time.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So the thing is, green leafy vegetables is your best source. And most of us in India eat them very rarely. In our house, we ate saag maybe 3 times a month, 4 times a month. In India, when you eat salad, the concept of salad is एक प्याज को आपने काटा 20 slices में, एक टमाटर को काटा 10 slices में, और एक खीरा काटा और सर्व कर दिया नींबू के साथ. This is salad. Whether there are 2 people on the table or 10 people, the salad is same. I go to India and all the time, even now, after I've been out of India for 47 years, that is their salad. Okay. Salad in America is different. Salad is green leafy vegetables. So green leafy vegetables are very rich in nitric oxide. When you eat green leafy vegetables, beetroot, the best thing. Okay, so what I recommend that is you develop a habit of drinking a glass of juice before each meal. This is one change you make. Okay, a glass of juice before a green juice. Eat that green juice. Your BP will come down within a week. Of course, cut down the things the faucet you have to close, so that bacon and ham, salami has to go. Number 1, cheese, doodh, dahi, that also has to go. So you need to become plant-based. And second, you need to become whole food. This is what I discuss in the 5 pillars. There's a difference between refined food and whole food. Sugar cane is whole food, very good for you, but sugar is not good for you. So peanuts are very good for you, but peanut oil is not good for you. Okay? So you need to eat food which is whole, from which nothing has been removed. Number one. Number two, which is not highly processed. In processed food, they add things. I talked about the PhD is trying to circumvent your satiation mechanism so that you will eat more. Don't eat packaged food. Okay? Yes, if it is a package of oatmeal, fine. Some people are packaging rice also. That is different. But don't eat processed food. And now if you're processing, which you can do yourself at home, peeling lauki and khira, those things are okay. You know, slicing, dicing is okay. But nothing heavily processed. So you have to, since I'm raving about it, one way to remember is, you say this fellow Lalit Kapoor was raving about it, RAVE. One journalist came up with this terminology and he has a documentary called Eating. R stands for no refined food. A stands for no animal food. V stands for no vegetable oil. And E stands for no exceptions. So only these three changes you make in your life. These only three changes. Your BP will drop within a week, I'm telling you. Now we'll talk about here that a lot of you are taking medication which you should not be taking to begin with. I'll cover that point. Okay. Here are some medium NO producers. Potatoes is good for you. Okay. Strawberries, eggplant, celery, melon. So these are medium sources. But add these to your diet somehow or other. Cauliflower, try to eat fresh. In the morning, make a bowl of fresh vegetables, cauliflowers, baby carrots, and cucumber, and leave it wherever you go. If you go through, I mean, most of you are retired, so you have a passageway. You go in my house from master bedroom. When we go through kitchen practically to go to other family room or other places. Put a plate there. I have to finish this by tonight. Okay. Other thing that you need to add, since I wasn't planning to cover that, is flax seed is very important. You need to get omega-3, okay? And you need to have flax seed. So add flax seed to your juice, that's fine. Or chia seed or hemp seed. Any of those seeds are good. So in India, we don't eat enough seeds. And we don't eat enough nuts. Walnuts are very good. They have omega-3. Next slide. Okay, now let's talk about it. So I discussed briefly that this JNC was formed and JNC 8 was coming with their new guidelines, and the people began to realize what they're going to be doing. They're going to be making it more lenient. So this is now, I covered that as a politics of food, okay? I devote whole week talking about it. That what is happening here is the people realize, all these doctors realize, not doctors, the doctors were sitting here. These are people who have American Medical Association. These are the policy makers at AMA or American College of Physicians or other organizations, okay? Their interest is to look after their members. Their members are doctors. So they want to make sure that our doctors' income remains well, they're not subject to lawsuits, they don't face any problems. They're not interested about consumers, okay? So they said, I think we don't need a joint national committee anymore. They realized that this is going to, their finding is going to be lenient, and doctors will suffer and pharmaceutical industry will suffer. So the wheels started moving. And they said, I think we should abandon this committee anymore. Let this be. And they dissolved the committee. And they said, we'll let American Heart Association dictate these things. And American Cardiologists Association or American Association of Cardiologists. It's like asking a fox to look after your hen house. Isn't it? So the people at JNC got so turned off that they went ahead and published their guidelines anyway. So they are conflicting guidelines. Same thing happens in other diseases. When you talk about diabetes, it's going on all the time. I see people taking medication who should not be taking medication. There are doctors, there are revised guidelines which have said that don't control it. Because there's this new concept that has evolved in the last 2 decades is that medicine is harmful. and your blood pressure is harmful. So what is more harmful? That is what we have to see. Medicine increase your death by what we call all-cause mortality. The fellow died. So in research, they did 11,000 patients, and they found that people where we were controlling blood pressure too tightly were dying in large numbers. And those people who were controlled at less tightly, more leniently, they were living longer life. So you want to live a long, healthy life. Okay? Your goal is not to bring BP 120 over 80. Your goal is to live long, healthy life, trouble-free. That's where you need to focus. So this is two guidelines. JNC 8 recommends people under 60 or those who are diabetics should maintain 140 over 90. So you should take just enough medication. There's nobody here under 60, but if you were, or your son or daughter, tell them that they only need to maintain up to 140 over 90 with their medication. Okay, so if they're maintaining it at 130 over 75, it's too low. Reduce your medication, reduce your medication. For all of us here, it is people over age 60, 150 over 90 is your cutoff. And it has been established, there are many videos about it, I shared them in the group. There's a Dr. Barron at UCSF, he teaches his class, he's a professor. The interesting thing about him is, before joining medical school, he had majored in nutrition. So when he talks, he has the nutrition knowledge and he has the medical knowledge. And he tells people, okay. So the AHA and ACC, I was telling you that they handed it over to them and they have much tighter because they're trying to help the doctors and pharmaceutical industries. So there's a lot of politics at play in all aspects of healthcare. There's not enough time to cover that, as I said, but there is a lot of politics, and there are a lot of people I know sitting here who are taking diabetes medications, cholesterol medication, and hypertension medication that they should not be taking. I'm saying without making any other change, they should not be taking. Okay, so let's go to another. Okay, this is the guidelines. These are the guidelines of JNC 6, JNC 7, JNC 8. When they came up in 1997, they said optimal is 120 over 80. And doctors loved it because then more people became hypertensive, became more patients. Okay. And then they said 140 over 90, you are hypertensive and you must take medication. Okay. That was 1997 guideline. 2004, they made it more strict. So doctors were happy, pharmaceutical industry was happy because they reduced it to 115 over 75. And they said, you are pre-hypertensive, so please go see a doctor. So now even if you're 120/80, you're going to go see a doctor. And when you see a doctor, you see him twice a year, because he fills your prescription. So you spend, of course, it's insurance money, so people don't care, but even the co-insurance, maybe $50 or something like that. So you are spending that $50 twice a year. Of course, the doctor is getting more like $300. And you're buying medication. So the pharmaceutical industry is happy. You don't need to do that. But that's what is... So JNC 8, they changed it. That's what I'm talking there. Your normal for people, all people in this room, is 150 over 90. Okay? And if you just make this small change of avoiding unhealthy animal foods and having green leafy vegetables or raw vegetables, you will be there within 5 days, I'm telling you. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now what doctors tell you, the lesson is not curable, so I'll tell you how to live with it. When you go for chronic diseases, they always guide you how to live with your problems, okay? And what do they focus on? How to reduce the blood pressure, not how to cure that clogging is going on. Now obviously if you eat less salt, there will be less water in your blood, so your blood pressure will come down. It doesn't solve the problem, okay? You haven't solved the problem. You have only brought the blood pressure down. Or avoid heavy exercises, they'll tell you, or don't get upset. You must have heard people telling you, Dad, Mom, ab gussa mat ho, aapka blood pressure बढ़ जाता है. अरे है ब्लड प्रेशर बढ़ जाता है, बिकॉज बढ़ना चाहिए, उससे ब्लड प्रेशर नहीं सॉल्व होता. ओके, और देन दे गिव यू मेडिकेशंस which will make you go pee a lot, so the blood volume will go down. That is not a medication, that is not a treatment. Okay, it is just reducing your blood pressure. That's all they are focusing on, doctors. Next one. Okay, now another thing on top of that is they all are taking the readings incorrectly. Okay, there's something called research grade guideline to take blood pressure. When your blood pressure is taken, your feet should be flat on the floor. What happens in doctor's office, they make you sit on a bench where they have a paper running, okay, and your feet are dangling, which is unhealthy. Second, the nurse is talking, so how are you, or how's your kid, did your daughter graduate? And then she's taking your blood pressure. For 5 minutes, there should be no other human contact for taking proper reading, okay. So they do everything wrong, okay. And then, of course, you're also anxious. It's called white coat effect. You've gone to see the doctor, you're already anxious. So the right reading is there are 19 specific criteria. I'm not going to go into those criteria. We don't have time for that. But I want you to understand that the study in 2017 called Systolic BP Intervention Trial, SPRINT, it was found that proper measurement was 12.7 millimeter lower than a routine office measurement. जो आपकी ऑफिस में रीडिंग होती है, it is high by 12.7. So first of all, they're trying to reduce your BP to 120 over 80, which is wrong. The right reading is 150 over 90. And secondly, in all likelihood, their reading is higher by 13 points. So even if their reading is 160 over 100, you know that you are probably all right. Okay, so the proper measurement, the way it is taken for research purposes, they take a reading, there's nobody in the room, they take reading after every 5 minutes, and they record the lowest reading. So when you take a reading, always take 3 readings, and the lowest is your correct reading. There can be many reasons for BP to go up during the day. Okay, you drink coffee, it goes up. Coffee has a half-life of 6 hours. So if you take coffee at 4 o'clock in the evening till 10 o'clock, the coffee's effect is there more than 50%. Okay, so BP will be high. In the morning when you get up and drink water, the BP increases with water. BP increases when you go into the shower. There are many reasons for BP to go high, but there's no reason for BP to come less than what it truly is. Okay, so always take 3 readings and record the lowest, write it down. And if your lowest reading is above 150 over 90, for all the people in this room, then only you need medication. Okay, and that also you need to make sure that you have taken it correctly. Okay, which you may or may not have. All right, let's move to the next slide.
Excuse me.
I'll answer the questions in 5 minutes. We are going to wrap up. Next slide. Okay, so what should we do? Because doctors are telling you how to maintain your symptoms low. What we need to do is avoid inflammatory food, close the tap, as I talked about. Avoid inflammatory food. You start declogging. Declogging begins when your kitchen sink clogs, you get what is called the liquid plumber. It goes in and washes it off. So your green juice is liquid plumber. That green juice or beetroots, these are the things which go in and they start declogging. Because green juice is rich in nitric oxide. Nitric oxide goes in and removes the clog. Okay? Your endothelial cell, the internal lining of your blood vessel, releases nitric oxide. So when it releases the air and you have a plaque on top of it, it tries to get rid of that plaque. Come out, get out, get out, okay? So your blood vessels begin to clean up, they begin to declog. So eat foods rich in nitrate, I talked about that. Hypernutrition, you hypernutrate yourself because most of us are deficient in nutrition. Since we eat oil, we eat sugar, and we eat dairy. None of these three things have any fiber. The fiber is zero. And in a typical Indian diet, which is in my other presentation, up to 2/3 of the calories every day come from these three things, because oil is very calorie rich. So it comes from oil, sugar, or dairy. Doodh, dahi, cheese, makhan, mithai, what that you're eating. So that food is coming without any nutrition value. You are stopping that, and you are replacing it with beetroots, green juice, sarson ka saag, lauki ki sabji, okay? So you are going to automatically become healthy. One doesn't need a nuclear scientist or a PhD in medicine to tell you that. Your body heals. And when your body heals, everything heals. There's nothing like, oh, I'm going to heal my blood pressure. Your blood sugar will heal. Your cholesterol will come down. Okay. There's Dr. McDougall. He runs a 10-day clinic in Santa Rosa. He's my teacher. Okay. And he also runs advanced study weekend program for 2.5 days. Those doctors, you know, like any profession, doctors have to keep taking at least 1 or 2 courses every year to keep their credentials. So they come. Doctors come there, nurses come there. And I have attended several advanced study weekends where these giants come, who you watch in that documentary, Folk Overnights, okay, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn of Cleveland Heart Clinic, Dr. Dean Ornish of UCSF, Dr. Robert Lustig of UCSF. Like that, these doctors come, they give talks, and then they tell you about it. So, okay, eat your omega-3, I talked about it, flax seeds, walnuts, chia seed, and hemp seed. These are 3-4 things which are very rich in omega-3. Be active, walk around. Walking is the best exercise. You don't have to go to gym. Just walk in your home, and there's something called figure of 8 walking. I'll show it afterward, after the talk. You can just, within a room, you can walk figure of 8. Put one chair, 2 chairs, and go around this way, clockwise, anti-clockwise, clockwise, anti-clockwise. And try to do 10,000 steps a day. Try to do, okay? I mean, of course, anything is better. Right now, if you're not doing any activity, you're probably doing 1,500 to 2,000 maximum in a day. Get a Fitbit, something like a Fitbit. It's not expensive now. They're down to $60, $70, or an Apple Watch or whatever. And you can count. So you know that by night, if you have not done 10,000, go out and walk another 10 minutes, okay? It's a good goal to achieve. Vitamin B12 supplement you must take, because vegetarian food does not have B12. We used to get B12 from river water, well water. B12 comes from the soil. So when you walk bare feet, work with your bare hands in the fields, then you get B12. You drink river water or well water. Now all water is chlorinated, which kills B12. So a lot of people in this room are likely to be B12 deficient, and you must get a supplement. In Dr. McDougall's 10-day program, he charges $4,500. When you go there on day 1, he has you drop all medications. And just for 10 days, he teaches you and he feeds you. His food is all plant-based whole food. By 10th day, your cholesterol drops, your blood pressure drops, your blood sugar drops. In the McDougall program, the BP drops by 17 to 11 points within 10-day program. And I have achieved the same results, in fact better. Okay? Because one of the things that I talk about in my recommendations is to do fasting. So I wasn't planning to cover that, but you should do fasting. You should try to do fast every 2 weeks. And Navratri fast is very good. So 2016 Nobel Prize was given to Dr. Yoshinori in physiology. And we have known for 5 decades that fasting is good. When mice research was done, those mice which were kept hungry for 1 day a week, every Sunday they didn't get any food, they lived up to 50% longer. You fast 1 day a week, they live 50% longer. We had known it for 5 decades, okay? But we didn't know why. And Dr. Yoshinori, his research has shown that when we fast, our body goes into stress and it recycles. It recycles all the dead cells. It needs protein, it recycles that protein. And it cleans up the body. That is how your health improves. Okay. In 2018, Nobel Prize was given to Dr. Honzo, who showed us that by doing longer fast of 5 days or 10 days, we develop immunity from cancer, immunity from other diseases. Okay. So the thing is, your body, I mentioned, every cell has two functions. One, to feed itself and poop out, okay, excrete. And second, to have sex or reproduce. Now, when the cell is hungry, if you don't have protein, if you're fasting, the cell becomes hungry. When sickle becomes hungry, he says, I don't want to worry about reproduction. I want to become stronger. I need to survive this shortage of protein. And your cell becomes stronger. So when you're going for chemotherapy, normally chemotherapy, you kill the cancer cells, you also kill some healthy cells around the cancer cells. Now when you do long-term fasting, your other cells have become stronger. Only cancer cell dies, healthy cells don't die because they have become stronger. So fasting, depriving protein is very helpful for curing cancer and curing other problems. Okay. So you do Navratri fast. I changed that 10 to 9 days in my guidelines because we have rich culture. We have been doing Navratri fast. And in Navratri fast, you take only one meal in the evening, a small meal of sabudana or tapioca. Why sabudana? Sabudana has literally no protein. It is very difficult to find food which has low protein. There's protein in everything. And the problem is the food industry has told us, you must eat protein, you must eat protein, you must eat protein. It is very unhealthy. It is very unhealthy to eat protein. Okay? It is very difficult to escape protein. And for fasting days, you want to escape protein. Because if you've kept fast for, let's say, 24 hours, if you take your meal, which is low in protein, the effect of fast is extended by another 12 hours. So have tapioca is a godsend. Have tapioca pudding, make it with coconut milk and date, okay, and have tapioca khichdi, make it with some dhania and a few other aloo in it, okay, and that's fine. So the point is fasting is very important. If you would start that will be good, or just watch that video. These are new things that came in 2016, 2018. Because of my Indian background, I was quick to adopt them. American Dr. McDougall has not adopted that. Okay, Dr. Dean Ornish has not adopted that. Okay, they will. The thing is, nobody makes money out of it. There's the USC, University of Southern California in LA. They have a longevity center. His research, Dr. Walter Longo, Italian, his research is how do we increase people's lifespan. And he has now made a product, he calls it Fast Mimicking Diet, FMD, Fast Mimicking Diet. His point is, Americans cannot fast anyway. Breakfast nahi mile to pagal ho jate hain. So he said, let me come up, and he has patented it, and they sell it, they charge a lot of money for it. So he is now recommending all cancer patients going through radiation or chemotherapy should eat fast mimicking diet. There is a concept of making you cancer-proof, okay? Immunity, building your immunity so that you will never catch cancer. That is also doing fast. If you can do a fast once a year for 10 days, that's great. Or you can do 4 times a year, a 5-day fast, okay? So I fast every Monday. And then once a month, I do a 48-hour fast. Once in 3 months, I do a 72-hour fast. And this is dry fast, no water, nothing, okay? It's very easy. Once you start doing it, it becomes very easy. Because when you fast, your mind becomes sharper. Your body becomes sharper. It's like your body is telling you, hey, I'm running out of food, go out and run and think clearly and go catch some, get some food or catch some rabbit or chicken or something like that. All right. So, I should be finishing now. Okay, I already talked about the bias in research. I will not cover this it's a separate topic. Okay, these are some of the guidelines I said for taking your accurate reading you have to follow. I have pointed some 7, 8 of them. Okay, the last line is important. In a recent study in 20 cities, 20 clinics showed that all readings that were over 140 over 90 at the doctor's office, 36% of the people had normal second measurement. So more than 1/3 of the people coming out of doctor's office were actually not BP patients, and doctor called them as BP patient. Okay, concluding remarks. Hypertension is a curable disease, and people get off within a month, 2 months maximum. It's caused by inflammatory diet and sedentary lifestyle. When we change that, body recuperates and disease goes away. Avoid all animal food, including dairy. Avoid all refined and highly processed foods, including oil and sugar. Consume 1% of your body weight in fruits and 1% of your body weight in vegetables each day. Then the question comes, how do you take so much of palak or saag or, so just make a juice. Juice makes it easy. You can have a glass of juice before every meal. You don't have to think about it. And then when you have a glass of juice, something else you'll eat a little less anyway. And most of us are overweight anyway, okay? So if there's some cases that if you're underweight, you don't need to